And we have total criminals taking over. I've made the decision to basically have almost no leisure, unless it's with my children, playing with them. I play football in the backyard with my kids, but that's about it, because they need that. We've got to get our priorities straight. Bob, this is a short segment, but long segment coming up. I want to explain to people this illusion, and I want you to get into it with them, but also what dollar collapse is going to look like, how this is going to affect the average person. And then also the record bonuses for Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, AIG, and others, the ones that changed the laws with the revolving door of politicians and regulators that are now further raping us with our tax money for bonuses, who are now going to set up the new bank of the world that the criminals, are going to control. But Bob Chapman of the internationalforecaster.com, people that want to check out more, gold isn't going up in price. The dollar is dropping in value, and people know it's going, so they're rushing into the safe haven of something that's a real commodity and has true value. How does that ratio work with the stock market? I know it's not as pure, dollar goes down, gold goes up, as it is with gold with the stock market, but if the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ are dollar denominated, is there not a ratio with the economy's plunging, the dollar's plunging, the industries are shutting down, but the stock market goes up? Is there not a ratio there with people also flooding into stocks instead of dollars?
Well, the move that you've seen in the Dow Jones from the low of 6,600 to 10,000 has been propelled by two basic reasons: short covering in a big way, people who bet the market was going to go down and were wrong, and secondly, the enormous amount of money that was put into the hands of banking and brokerage firms and insurance companies. I mean, we're talking trillions of dollars. What do they do with it? Well, the Fed said, look, get in the market, run the thing up. We have to have some stability in here. We have to convince the public that we're capable of making the market become 10,000 again, and making those pension and profit-sharing plans go from minus 50% back to even again. And so that's what they've done. But the flip side of that is inflation starting to heat up big time. Look at the PPI since May. All you had to do was watch that, and you know that costs are going to go up. Now, either the producers of goods and services are going to eat the additional cost, or they're going to pass it on. Well, most of them are going to pass it on. And also, to answer your question about the falling of the dollar, how is it going to affect Americans? Everything they buy from a foreign country is going to get more expensive. So that T-shirt that came from China, and you bought it at retail for $1, might cost $1.35 or $1.50. And so that's one of the main ways that it's going to hit. It's going to be very inflationary. And that will go on for a time. How high will inflation go? A minimum of 14 to 15%, perhaps a lot more. We don't know what they've got in store for us yet.
Well, Bob, what's the real number? I mean, unemployment, every other private group says 20% or more. The government says 9.5%. What's the real number there?
Well, the only people I know that figure out what the dollar, the increase in money and credit is John Williams and myself, and he's got 21.4%, and I got 21.3%. So I'll bow to his professional expertise because he's better at it than I am. And so, yes, that's what we've got. So anything that some politician or businessman says that the unemployment's more than 20%, that's true.
So unemployment's more like 20. Inflation's, where's inflation at then?
Real inflation is 6.11% using a formula before Bill Clinton went to office in the 1980s.
All right, stay there.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
I have a family. My parents live here. I have 3 children. I love this country. I had 2 relations on my mother's side of the family that came over on the Mayflower. My family was all over the Revolutionary War in 1776 and in the founding of Texas. I mean, I really bleed red, white, and blue. I know we've been the greatest country in history. I know we're special. Our Bill of Rights and Constitution is wonderful. And I'm so sick of watching offshore banks with slick PR firms who know how to lie to the public, gutting the country, openly announcing at Davos they're setting up a world government. George Soros and all these guys laughing, saying, I'm having a great crisis. We're finally going to bring down the U.S. and set up world government. The Pentagon totally works for them. They're openly setting up a police state to rob all of us. And I've still got to argue with people about whether I'm a conspiracy theorist or not. I mean, Bob Chapman, does it ever make your head spin to have the thousands of government documents, statements, reports that we cover, that we link to? More news today about deaths from the swine flu vaccine, people getting paralyzed. Medical doctors say, yes, it's causing neurological problems. They had to stop it in 76. For a year, they denied deaths were happening in 76. And people finally said, hell no, and they admitted it. I mean, how many times do we have to be lied to? How many times do we have to be right? And again, I'm not trying to toot our horn here today, but I want to make a big deal out of this because it is a big deal. We have the track record. We have been right. We do our homework. We bust our ass. I mean, Bob, I remember you, however many years ago it was, you can remind me, and I'm reading your forecast or having you on. I've been interviewing you for like 8 years. I remember you when the stock market hit 14,000 saying, get out now. And you can remind me of the date in a moment. And then when the stock market went way down last year, you said it's going to run back up in the summer and fall. And then I forget when you said it was going to plunge down again. Let's hear your forecast now. And I remember you calling all these things accurately. And you've pointed out, because you're not an egomaniac, and neither are other economists we have on, you've pointed out that Bob Chapman's about 95% accurate, and that the mainstream media is over 80% inaccurate on the financial shows. They're not inaccurate because they're stupid. They're just as smart as Bob Chapman. In fact, in their own personal lives, it's come out that their portfolios are the opposite of what they're saying. In many cases, what they tell their viewers, Kramer and others, that they know what they're doing. They know they're lying. They know they're spinning. They know they're just manipulating. So you're just telling the truth because that's what you do. As you know, that's your business model. That's your political model. They work for the system, so they lie. I mean, explain to people your predictions, and they're all in the newsletters. Go over all the things you called, and then where we are right now and where you see us going.
Well, I can go back to, I called the top of the real estate market in October of 1989, and I sold my house in Malibu that month, as a matter of fact. And I said, it's over, and they're going to go down considerably. Well, that happened. And the elitists had an opportunity between 1990 and 92 to straighten the entire economy out by having a strong recession. They refused to do that. Japan, at the same time, was in a terrible fix, and that went on for 20 years. And we called the top of the market there at 42,000. It eventually went down to about 5,000, and now it's trading a little bit higher. But that was some of the things in the old days that, if you want to call them that, I called. We even called the rally in gold in 1984-5, and then again in 1986. I think one of the best things I ever called was the increase in interest rates in 1992, where we said the 30-year would go to 8 1/16, and we hit it right on the head. Then, of course, the dot-com boom came during the late 90s, and I just stood aside and said, I'm not going to go into that madness. And in April, the second week of 2000, we called a top on the stock market. And then in June, we went in big time into the gold and silver shares and coins because we felt this was the beginning of another bull market, and the first phase was just completed. We went from $252 an ounce on gold to $1,070 intraday. And so we made that call. We called the 9/11 type of event in November before it happened, within 33 days. We called Iraq and Iran the conflicts. We called the top of the stock market at 14,000. We said it would go to either 7,200 or 6,600. It went to 6,600, and we thought it would go back to 8,500, and it did. In fact, it went to 10,000. We didn't pick the top on that, but we were essentially and fundamentally correct. Now I think we're looking at a return. I can't tell you the length of time right now, but we're looking at a return of the Dow downward. The time frame, hard to say, but at the moment it looks like we should see a correction down to 78 to 8,800, down somewhere in that area. Gold and silver are going to keep right on going up. Silver will break out finally from its old high, probably by the end of the year. And gold, of course, is broken out.